Hi everyone, it's me, Power Rangers Red here, or known as Dwayne. Today I'm going to be probably reviewing one of the first Power Rangers side-scrolling games that most people are familiar with. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Well, please note that Power Rangers have had video games released for almost every season they have done. Either on Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis or Nintendo 64 or Sega Neptune or whatever the case might be, Sega Master System, Nintendo, Sega Dreamcast I meant, and Nintendo Dreamcast, oh my god, the PlayStation, the Xbox, and the Wii, and goes on and on. Okay, I'll eventually get through to review all those other games. I just recently found out that Power Rangers Turbo had a game made too. Alright, on to the review. This game has probably been maybe one of the recognized of all the Power Rangers games. It was the first one to come out for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, I believe around 1994, 80, I believe, during the first season. First off, during this time, there was a tournament fighter, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game that came out for the Sega Genesis, but it was a tournament fighter. So, I'll look at that one in the future. The graphics are really good for Super Nintendo standards. Everything looks the way they should look. You play as the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Zack. You play as Jason, Zack, Billy, and Kimberly, and Trini, and Tommy. Well, yeah, I guess so. The game has a good nostalgia factor. If you're into games that cause you to be, if you like side-scrolling fighting games, it brings up Final Fight, Turf War, for example, then this game will be right up your alley. Some of the monsters you fight in the game are actually monsters. Well, monsters of the week that were used in the first season. And let me tell you something, the game is very hard. I mean, if you eventually played it on the Super Nintendo, the difficult settings might actually do something. But if you're playing it on the computer, the difficult settings don't really do too much. But then again, maybe when you were doing on the Super Nintendo, maybe it didn't do too much. That's the only one problem with the game was it starts out easy, and then by the time you're at Bones, the first stage boss, it's already going hard. All the Rangers start out fighting in a civilian form, and then eventually you get the option to morph into your Power Ranger form after you get a certain amount of energy. I don't know exactly how this is done, but I know it's done. The music, even though it's not from Super Sentai or the Power Rangers, but the music's still good. The gameplay factor, the controls, well, it depends on which way you're playing it. If you're playing it on a Super Nintendo, I think the controls were alright. I can't recall anyone who reviewed the game saying the controls were bad or not. If you're playing it on a computer, the controls are, I think they're okay. You just have to get used to figuring out what does what. But I think the controls are good. Now, the gameplay is side-scrolling fighting, so there isn't anything bad about that. Now, would I recommend this game? Well, to anyone who's a fan of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers or just a fan of fighting games in general, this game would be one of those ones. If you have a working Super Nintendo, or you went on Power Rangers Planet, note that website does allow you to play games, but it also is very generous in giving you the option to download game console drivers. But I recommend that you mostly stay to Super Nintendo games when dealing with your computer, because Sega games don't like to always work. So, that's it. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Really cool game. I mean, it does have some little fallbacks on itself, like starting out easy and then getting hard by the time you hit the first stage boss. I mean, some might say that if you've been playing the game a lot, you might get good at it. But I really don't know. I think that I really do remember, playing the game, or at least watching my brother Scott play it. And I did try my attempt of goofing around with it, you could say, on my computer. When I mean that, I mean actually playing it and finding it that, yeah, everything in the first level goes boom boom at you, so by the time you get to the first stage boss, it's like hard. But I'm sure if you get past that, I'm sure certain Power Rangers have certain fight techniques that help them in certain battles. For example, Jason, the Red Ranger, he has certain fighting strengths and weaknesses. Billy, the Blue Ranger, does. So does Kimberly, the Pink Ranger, Zach, the Black Ranger, and Trini, the Yellow Ranger. They have their strengths and weaknesses when it comes to fighting, though, both in civilian and Power Ranger form. I did mention that you could also... I did mention you could play as Tommy on this game as the Green Ranger, but that's after you had a fight with him and you end up breaking the spell, then he becomes a playable character. He also has his strengths and weaknesses in both civilian and Ranger form when it comes to fighting in this game, but this game is 2 players, by the way, but you can't do that on your computer unless you had a joystick or something. But I guess if it was 2 players, 2 players could probably do get through most of the levels easier than 1 player. Okay, that's it for me. Power Rangers Red. I'll see you all later.